What if I went?
What's up, guys? Welcome to Ask Shane B. I'm Jeremy Jaquia here with Shane Barnard of Shane and Shane. What's up, man?
Hey, man.
Got your acoustic out?
Yeah.
We're talking acoustic guitar stuff today. It's going to be awesome. We've gotten just a lot of questions about gear and how you choose your guitars and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just not even really going to read any emails today. I'm just going to read a short list of a few questions that I think cover a lot of some of the questions we've gotten from different folks.
Absolutely.
So the first one doesn't actually have to do with your guitar, but I think something that people notice a lot that you use is your iPad. And
get that one out of the way first.
The people want to know. What's on your iPad?
Yes.
What's on your iPad when you lead worship?
And so for those of you watching, if you're just listening, what I'm doing right now is I'm screen capturing my iPad.
You're so tech.
And I'm not super proud of how much I look at my iPad. I actually just got great feedback from Mr. Ross Fishburne, who's standing right behind this camera, on maybe I could stand to look at it less.
But it's there.
Yes.
It has information on it.
So here's my set list, and I'm always, moving stuff around. It's in the Worship Initiative Setlist Builder. I think it's pretty awesome. And then if I view the live chart, push that button, and then I have a little Bluetooth pedal that just flips my thing, so I don't have to flip it with my like this, because that's way too hard.
Because you're playing guitar.
To do that, which that was actually a fun for about a year to just flip through it while I was strumming. It was kind of a cool little game.
Challenge.
Yeah, and so I just flip through. I can go to the next song, push the next song button, or I can just flip the page. And I really like this versus using the Planning Center app, which I have, the live chart app. Because it's all formatted exactly the same, and I'm pulling from our song library, and it all just loads in there. And so that's what I'm looking at. Again, like that's for another podcast at another time, when we encourage all of our worship leaders to memorize the songs and not look at the iPad.
Sure.
But that is what I'm doing.
So it's
Jeremy.
charts, it's lyrics, chords, just kind of giving you a backup.
I also have like my my 3 or 4 or 5 points that I want to say in my call to worship or transition in the middle of the set and scriptures and stuff. So
it's awesome.
Yep.
Great. There you go, everybody.
Get that one out of the way. Let's move on to the guitar.
So the guitar. So what guitars do you use, and how do you pick which one to play? Do you use any effects or EQ for your guitar? What pickups do you use in your guitar?
Do you want to go one at a time, or you want to just...
I'm just giving them. I'm getting them all out there, and then we'll hit them.
What was the first one again?
What guitars do you use, and how do you pick which one to play?
Yeah. Okay, so this guitar that I have is one of my favorite guitars. It's a Breedlove. When Breedlove first came out, so this is like 20 years ago, I found this guitar in a shop that I'd never heard of Breedlove, and I purchased this guitar. I played it once live. This would be a good example of this. It's probably my favorite guitar to play, just in a room, mainly because it has a little fish on the neck. Just kidding. No, it sounds it sounds really good. And I played it live once and only once, and so it had an LR Baggs pickup in it, and I don't know what was wrong. But something was wrong. And so typically, I'm very much a feeler. I don't know much about anything. And so I could not tell you what this guitar is made of. I could look inside and maybe it would say, nope. Spruce maybe on the top. Maple-ish. Yeah, I don't know. That's not my kind of podcast. I'm sure you can just dive into some other podcast and get that info. But the way that I do it is, I know immediately. I feel like when I plug a guitar in, currently I play a couple of different McPherson guitars. And immediately when I plug them in, I'm like, okay, something is there that it is very workable. And basically, I just hear the signal, which all of them have a consistent, it's either an LR Baggs or a Fishman or a Martin thin line pickup. I know the McPherson's have one that are that are made by LR Bags specifically for McPherson's, but I know that there's no secret sauce. So it's just a thin line pickup under the saddle. Typically, it has one little volume knob on and off. Most of everything that I play doesn't have any EQ options on board. And I'm just going immediately. There's a lot of frequency to work with, a lot of low-end frequency, a lot of high frequency. A couple of them, we have to like boost the low-end frequencies a little bit. Some of them, you might have to dip the low-end frequencies a little bit. There's guitars that I've played that I love that we dip the 200 to 400, the kind of the ugly mid-range smiley face kind of the thing. And some guitars naturally just sound like that. So I have a couple that we genuinely don't do anything to. They're just like exactly how you'd want to fit in a mix. If I'm playing alone, we might like boost the really low end. Like sometimes when I'm playing alone, it's not a normal thing to do with the acoustic guitar, but every time I play, I'm asking the front of house guy to see if he can just sneak a little of my guitar into like the sub aux from the front of house. And so if you don't have your subs on its own auxiliary channel, then that just translates in boosting like the kick drum low end range, like the 80 to 100 hertz, kind of deal. And that just kind of helps with just the beefiness of, when you're playing this kind of deal, you kind of feel it in the room instead of just hearing it from the top of the, lots of our churches, the speakers are hanging so high.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of makes it become part of like your feeling as well as your, like audio experience. You feel it in your body. And so that's how I pick. I mean, I really do. I have some guitars I don't like live, and sometimes other guitars I really like in the studio. And it really is just, man, you sit down and you strum that thing, and it's like, I think that's going to be great. And sometimes it helps if you have sometimes it really helps if you have someone with really great ears. That could be a musician, that could be a front of house guy. Sometimes front of house guys don't have great ears. Sometimes they do. And that also could be a really big help. We have a couple folks who run sound for us that are like, that guitar, the second you played it. And so that's been helpful too on how I pick, because I don't really care. I mean, for years and years I played the same guitar, and it sounded great, and then it kind of started to fall apart. It's an old Martin sitting right over there, and I know my good buddy Phil Wickham. He has played the same Taylor since he's been touring with us for over 12 years. It's the same guitar. It broke one time, so it took a year hiatus, and then it came back, got repaired, and so he just loves the way that it sounds. It has this big scooped sound just naturally, and it just really works. And so that's how I choose a guitar. If I were in a store choosing a guitar, I would sit down and I would play it, and I would go, that one sounds really good. And that's about it. I don't even like to look at what kind of wood or, I would like to say it would be really fun to just walk into shops without looking at prices, or like give me a blindfold and hand me guitars and let me just like see what's happening and singing to me, That's awesome. So that's my deal on that. I use these little Dunlop picks, little orange guys. This one's worn out, so I can't tell. It's 60. Is it 0.60? What is it, Ross? 60 something? 60 cents. This costs 60 cents. And so this is the kind of pick that I use.
Go find the orange guy.
Yeah, the orange guy. I do occasionally use the yellow guy, and occasionally I use some gray little guys. So on the pick,
guys. You gotta feel it for picking your guitar.
Yeah, you gotta feel it.
Get a gray guy for your pick, an orange guy.
Yeah, orange. I tend to go for the orange, and it's a great strumming. This is a great strumming pick, and it's a great pick and pick. That's why I do that. Okay, I think you said something about, am I going through any effects? Was that part of the question?
It was. Yeah. Do you use any effects for your acoustic? Which, I mean, I've seen you mess with some delay stuff from time to time, but that's pretty rare. Yeah.
So I've explored this space in the effects world maybe 2 or 3 times in my career. And then typically Shane just laughs at me and says, "Please don't ever do that again." I had a looper for a good amount of years where I'd kind of loop some parts and some perk stuff, but other people do that so much better than me, so I just stuck to like strumming. But for the most part, the answer is no. So effects-wise, I got nothing. I'm going into whatever direct box is set before me. Sometimes it's like a passive DI. You can look at our tech videos on theworstfinishive.com to see what that means. Sometimes it's active, and honestly, I can't tell much of a difference either way.
Great.
I used to carry around an Avalon, big, fat, fancy Avalon direct box, and I think it just looked cool and had a cool purple light that I still love. I turn it on sometimes just to look at it.
Just for the purple light.
Yeah, but I don't use it anymore because I think that for the most part, if you have a good guitar, you're going through, a solid, direct box, which doesn't have to be expensive, and you got a decent sound guy, then you are set up, you're set up for success. I don't, speaking of effects, I don't even like to put a lot of compression on my acoustic. So I'm often, almost on a semi-daily basis, telling the front of house guy to dial back the compression because I can just tell. Like when I play hard, it's clamping down on it, and so I lose the life in the guitar.
Yeah.
Granted, I do put compression. If I'm mixing something in the studio or if I was mixing live, I would put compression on the acoustic guitar too. So I get it, but
when you're playing.
But when you're playing, especially when you're playing, oftentimes we're playing with just like a percussion and an acoustic, so you want some life. Sometimes I'm doing something and I'm trying not to be heard, but a front of house guy would be like, well, I can't hear him, so I need to compress it so that the quiet parts are audible and the loud parts come down. And I'm like, well, no, I don't want to be heard. I want to be barely heard. Yeah. And so in some ways, I'm kind of a little bit of a purist in that way of just like, let's let the guitar do what the guitar's meant to do. And so all the while, I understand the art of compression, and I'm a very big fan of using that tool for sure. And so what else we got?
That's all on my list. You answered them all.
That's it.
You answered them all. You talked about your iPad and how you pick your guitars, effects, pickups, all that good stuff. You kind of touched on all of it. What I think was great about what you said is, honestly, you have a really simple approach. I think there's probably going to be some people that are really, they thought they'd maybe get their checklist, their Shane Barnard checklist of gear to go buy and how to do it. But I think what's awesome about what you said is it really is pretty straightforward, pretty simple.
Yep.
And I think we can get caught up in the gear and in the different ways to make things, I don't know. We can just get caught up in all that stuff, which to some degree can be good when you're using it really intentionally.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's fundamentals of, hey, your guitar is in tune and you're playing in time and you're playing at the right spot and you're thinking about what you're doing. You're intentional about how your guitar sounds.
I'm really glad you said that, Jeremy.
Great.
Because that is another reason why I pick a guitar, is a guitar that stays in tune.
There you go.
So, in fact, the guitar that I play live is a McPherson, and the top reason that I play it, which is funny that I didn't say it, is that it has great intonation. So I can put a capo on. The way that the McPherson guitars, like the way that he designs the neck, it doesn't have like your stereotypical truss rod coming through it. So it's got like a carbon fiber mini neck inside. So, I've dropped them. Love you, Matthew McPherson. And played baseball with him at home with my girls.
Sure.
No, I haven't done that. But they just stay in tune really, really well. And that's a huge part of picking a guitar. I've played guitars that are just gorgeous. But I strum. I'll just always, okay, my strings are all stretched. It's another episode for that whole thing. And so, I've done everything I know to do to make this thing last an hour and 20 minutes. And it's still, every song, I'm just like, oh, and I go get it set up, and then still I'm just like, oh man, I'm spend so much of the time tuning because I can't stand when something's just a little bit out of tune. And so that would be another litmus test to run, if there's been, in the $350 to $500 guitar range, I've played some that I would take to the bank. And part of that is like, I've played a couple Larave's in that range, and Martins in that range, Taylor's in that range that I just love. And so it's just shutting your eyes, using your ears. I think you nailed it of like, this, I feel like part of the secret to just being a good acoustic player is just fundamentals. And again, that's just another podcast for another time of just like being in tune, playing in time, all those things. We're a rhythm player. This is what we do.
But it's being a good worship leader. It's removing distraction, playing your role in a really intentional way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be wrapped in a ton of gear and tricks.
Yeah.
And it can be really effective.
Totally.
It's awesome.
All right.
Guys, hope that was helpful. As always, send your questions in to us at AskShaneB@worshipinitiative.com. We're loving getting into these, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.